Right.
Right.
And we're on.
So
Carl,
I'm
it's
just
all you, buddy.
okay. I'm going to admit a couple more people to come in.
Ooh, I'll
And
take care of that for you.
okay, all right. Welcome everybody. This is a rather interesting topic. At the same time, it could be quite complex and it could be quite simple. But basically, let me get started with this simple observation in my own company many years ago. I ran a system integration company in Singapore. And being an entrepreneur, this is more than 20. We tried to do systems integration work. We tried to sell hardware and software. So we have professional services. We try to sell hardware and software. We also start to go after website work when websites were just a very new thing. And then we try to go after government work. We try to go after multinational work and small, medium-sized enterprises. So being a young entrepreneur, we try to do everything to generate cash flow. And within a very short time, we were really, really struggling to figure out, it wasn't our business model or what we did, is how do we sort out our back end, our core competencies, our back end? How do we sort out our middle office? And how do we figure out how do we price? I'll give US dollars as an example. I said, sure, we'll make a website. They'll be willing to pay $20,000. Great. That was the good price. At the same time, somebody will say, we like to do a website, but we can only pay $5,000. Would you take it? Well, we're entrepreneurs. We'll take it. And of course, we start to juggle between the $20,000 piece of work and a $5,000 piece of work. And then one of my sales members, sales reps, one of our sales staff got 20 clients. Each wanted to pay $1,500 for a website. Very, very simple. Not much modification. This is way before WordPress, okay, everyone. This is during those Flash and all these other good stuff that was out there. So
you're dating yourself, Carl.
Yeah, exactly. Flash, exactly. So eventually, we lost a lot of money. Not because we're not able to deliver, because it was not a competency technical site, but we struggle to figure out how do we sort out our interactions with different types of customers. So I'm going to share my slide right now and come up with something called a customer interaction model. Now, I'll be very upfront to say every major consulting firm, from Boston Consulting to BCG, up to McKinsey, to Bain, to Pricewaterhouse, I believe they have different iterations of this. But what we've done is over the years, we've kind of used this framework called customer interaction model to serve our own companies as we start to grow our businesses in many different dimensions. And we started to put some logic into it. We started to kind of interact with other consulting firms. And so what we've developed is actually what we call a rationalization framework. And maybe that's the best way to do this. I'll go ahead and start to share my screen. So, okay, Google is refreshing. Allow for 1 minute. Okay, great. I'll start to share my screen. And I'm going to make sure you guys can see this. Can you see the screen?
There, it's coming.
Customer interaction models, right? Are we good?
Yeah.
All right. So, customer interaction models, and this is, by the way, a program that we use that is built onto strategic thinking, strategic business acumen, strategic marketing programs that we offer in Asia. Apart from being an Eagle Venture Fund partner, general partner, we run a consulting and training company, and our clients are throughout Asia. So this is the scenario. all of us, I'm using Singapore dollars, but all of us have had this situation. I'm just going to see if I can make it bigger. There. If I need to take $200 cash out from my bank, there are two fundamental options. One is I can use an ATM, or another option is I can use a bank teller, or even somebody who's what we call a low counter banker, which will deal with much more complex requirements. So the question is, I want to do something and interact with my bank, which is my provider. And in this specific case, I want something that's lean and reliable. I don't really need a customized solution. You start to think about two issues here, which is the willingness to pay for the service versus the cost to serve. And these are the two tensions that's always there. Willingness to pay. As a customer, am I willing to pay? And the cost to serve me. So this is the concept behind a customer interaction model. What I realize is this is, as a business, we should always be aware of the type. One way to talk about market segmentation, target market. Another way to look at, are they willing to pay for my services? And does it cost me more or less to go after them? And we found that there are actually 6 customer interaction models that we would like to wrestle with. So I'll just read this out. The customer interaction model is a framework to ensure that the business has the clarity needed to design the optimal way to interact with their customers. And the tension is between effectiveness and efficiency. By knowing this, if you take a look at the top right side, once you understand what's your customer interaction model that you're built or that you like to desire, then your product mix, your pricing strategies, how you go about doing your branding and your marketing are all implicated. For example, if you have a specific product pricing strategy that you're trying to implement, there's fundamentally 4 or 5 different types of way of doing pricing. Commodity-based pricing, which is market supply demand. Cost plus pricing, such as IKEA and McDonald's. Value-based pricing, such as Apple. Or even a customized or actually an outsourcing pricing, which is basically take over part of my value chain and you do the stuff and you come back to me with the finished goods, like a call center. So we identified 6 types of customer interaction models, and it'll get a little bit more complicated and it'll get a little bit less complicated as we go along this. So I'll just jump right into this. These are the 6 types of interaction models that services the way customers want to interact with me. And fundamentally, what I'm trying to say is this. We should treat customers they want to be treated based on their willingness to pay for it. Now, so far, I haven't seen any other exceptions from this. On the top left side is transactional supplier. We call it trader transactional. The price of eggs, the price of orange juice, pork rinds, gasoline, fundamentally, these are commodities. What's the best way to price it? Well, the market determines that price. This is what we call a market-based pricing, right? Obviously, you can get a bit more complicated with OPEC and all oil supplies. But generally speaking, if you do economics 101, there's a supply-demand curve. That's basically it. That's one way to interact. Basically, the market determines the pricing. The core competency on this is to make sure that you're efficient. Lean and reliable supplier is IKEA. I use this as an example. IKEA basically, everywhere you go in the world, just like McDonald's, you kind of know the reason you're going there is not because it's the most amazing quality. It's basically cheap and good and consistent. You want customers in IKEA? What do? They give you your own ruler. That's a paper ruler. They give you a very nice thick brochure. And they say, wander around our whole IKEA warehouse, which is a showroom, because we can't be bothered to have a really nice showroom because our warehouse is where you should buy. Their business model is lean and reliable. McDonald's is exactly the same. What if I walk into any McDonald's store and I say, here's $1,000. I would like you to cook fried rice, Chinese fried rice for me. Even though they have the intent to earn that $1,000, they're not designed to provide that customized solution. Standard package provider is on the top right side. It's basically a menu of things that you can buy, and you can even mix and match. I put Dell in here because if you go to Dell.com, you could design and customize your own laptop, correct? Well, no. The feeling of buying your own laptop and designing your own laptop is there, but fundamentally, there's a 13-inch, 11-inch, and a 16-inch or something like that. There's 5 different colors. There's 4 different memory and spaces that you storage space that you're working on, and there's 3 different models. If you do the total math on this, there's probably a total of 75 different iterations. It feels like a customized solution, but it's a standard package. It's very similar to when you go and walk into a restaurant and you've got your set menu lunch or set menu dinners. One has a soup, a main course, beef or chicken, and then a dessert and coffee. And the dessert's got 2 choices: chocolate pie and lemon meringue pie. That's it. And option B or option C. They give you standards. Can they customize and do something for you? Well, you know what? In the point of sale machine that they don't have customized solutions. They just press option A, B, or C. On the bottom left is innovator, which is companies that invest heavily in R&D. They look to create the type of innovation. Pfizer would be another example of that. And the way they do pricing is value-based pricing. I still don't really understand how my daughter's new iPhone cost more than my computer. I don't understand that. But, it's my daughter's. I'm willing to pay for it. Innovators' pricing strategy is value-based pricing, heavily invested in research. Customized solutions provider, my training company is the example that I'm sharing here. What a customized solution provider does is actually they co-create the solution with the client. I have another company called Banking On, which is a fintech company, and Eagle's one of our investors. Banking On does customized solutions, mobile banking apps for its clients. Long sales cycle, co-creation with the client. You need very technically competent people to be engaging with the customers. If you can contrast that to Shell, you don't need anybody to be selling. Basically, they go through a website or they go through a pump station. You don't need a very highly skilled salesperson for that transaction. But under customized solution provider, you need technical competencies, you need pre-sales consultants, and all this good stuff that goes in there. The good news with Banking On is they've now started to introduce a product that's a little bit more off the shelf, which is a little bit more on the innovator side. And then finally, it's outsourcing provider. Outsourcing provider is basically, I don't want to do this part of the value chain. I'm going to give it to you. Please handle it, and I'll pay you on a per case basis. That's on the pricing model is more performance-based pricing. So Health Online is our medical call center. We basically are being outsourced to handle about 25 different steps for life insurance companies as a part of their new client acquisition. So these are the 6 interaction models, and I'll deep dive into it just a little bit more. I'm hoping that by now, most of you are thinking, in my business, I think I'm in this area or in that area. A few different, not warnings, a few different comments here. If you're currently operating in a lean and reliable, and you're also operating in a customized solution provider, you're going to realize your internal tensions right away. Because the back office, the mid office, and the front office gearing to do one customer interaction model well is already a challenge. To do 2 is super difficult. To do 3, most companies would fail. Now, I've worked with one client, which is a very, very large multinational chemical firm. They realized that they were operating in all 6 interaction models, and they're really struggling to optimize their shared services and back office to support all these because it's too difficult. So they start to rationalize this. This is all theory. I'm going to give a little bit more meat into this now. If you look at the pricing strategy, transactional is basically market-based pricing. It's about as commodity as it gets. So if you look at the example of Shell in our country, we have Shell, we have a couple other Caltex, we've got a couple other gasoline station brands. One gasoline station to the next gasoline station, the price doesn't deviate that much. Now, within one gasoline station, we have different grades of petroleum. But frankly speaking, that's just the gasoline station trying to do differentiator. If you look at it, technically speaking, I think all the gasolines are pretty much the same. Lean and reliable, if that's what you are, you're looking at a cost plus pricing approach. Standard package provider, you can look at either base cost plus or value-based pricing. Innovator is always value-based pricing, customized solution as well. And then outsourcing provider basically is a performance-based pricing. These are the core competencies that you need to start to look at as you want to operate effectively and efficiently in each. Transactional, supply and demand economics is your go-to approach. You got no or little bit of additional services. Your sales channel has to be super lean. You may even use intermediaries and brokerages. You have to really be strong on your supply chain management. You have to understand what the competitive landscape. Sometimes branding is important, but the relationship between your client and you is very shallow. Because it's not critical. Lean and reliable, which is the middle customer interaction model, you may actually have direct sales force only for very, very large customers. The main focus is reliability is more important than high quality. So I'm sure all of us have traveled to different cities and perhaps even different countries. And no matter where you go, if you don't know what to eat and you're bringing your family along, if you walk into a McDonald's, you kind of know what you're going to get. Reliability is more important than high quality. The customers basically, what are they looking for? They just want some basic product differentiation, but they're not willing to pay for a premium. IKEA is a great example of that. Standard package provider, if you take on the far right side, basically these are about as off the shelf as it has, but it gives you the feeling that you can do a bit of mix and match, a little bit of Lego. Corporate branding are important. Product management expertise become very important. How you do your product service mix is very important. Why do I say product service mix? Because there could be some moments where you need to have customer service, what we call customer success teams. That could be a part of this engagement. Whereas customer success teams in lean and reliable is probably not going to happen. You may have to pay extra for them to actually come to your house and assemble. So in Singapore, you can buy IKEA stuff and you'll pay an extra $100 for somebody to come in and assemble it for you because you don't want to take the risk of getting it wrong. Because IKEA equipment is one time installed. If you don't get it right, pretty much it doesn't work. Innovator, you need to identify the mega trends, or you may need to even drive the mega trends, like what Apple has done. Your first to market is critical. People want to know. And what you're trying to do is you want to catch the early adopters. I know as a tech company with the Eagle family, we all want to become innovators. Great. But we may not necessarily be innovators, right? Because it requires heavy investment in R&D, and we need to spend money to educate our target market. Let me repeat that. We need to spend money to educate our target market, right? IP becomes very important. and the customer is fundamentally willing to pay for the innovation that we're providing.
Carl, how do you figure out if you're an innovator?
Great question. I'm going to actually come to that if you spare with me a little bit. But great question. There's a decision tree. So the middle one is, I'll just go real fast. The middle one is co-creating with the client. And you look at the customer is offering the co-creating the final solution. It's the customized solution is always to spec. You basically are designing something specific for one client. Whereas in an innovator, you're designing something to share across many clients. And the outsourcing provider, the easiest one for an outsourcing provider is this. If you take your credit card, and then in the credit card, there's a small print, 1-800 number. If you have a issue, you need to call that. And you'll often hear, somebody picking up the phone with a very strong Filipino accent. Well, guess what? Citibank, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, the people that's picking up the phone is not actually working for Wells Fargo. They're actually a call center in Manila or somewhere in Asia that's working on shifts that's able to support, and most likely that call center will be charging Citibank or Wells Fargo on a per call basis, right? So part of the value chain is being transferred. Wes, you asked this question, so let me share with you. How do I decide? There's 5 fundamental questions to ask, and I think this is worthwhile to walk through it. Is the customer interested in a value proposition beyond price and the standard and product attribute? If it's no, you go to the left side. You ask question number 5. Does it matter who produces the product and are there other basic requirements? If it's no, you're transactional. If it's yes, like IKEA, there's a little bit of basic requirements, then you're lean and reliable. Now, if the answer is yes to question number 1, is the customer willing to transfer part of the value chain? If it's yes, you go to outsourcing provider. If it's no, it gets a little more complex. Is the supplier's innovation power the main driver behind the customer's decision, purchasing decision? If it's no, you go to standard package, like Dell. Dell is no longer the innovation company, right? Apple will be considered to be more innovative. And then the question is the product offering being shared across different customers? There is the framework for decision tree. Now I know what you're thinking. What if in question number 3, I'm a little bit iffy about how I decide to do this? Well, this is the level of detail that we've designed this tool. And this is what we're training our customers. We have scorecards that we've developed. For if you go to question 1, this is a scorecard for question 1. And you start to map out where you are in each one of this. And if your total score is more than 17, then the answer to question 1 is yes. And then question 2. Question 3. We'll give you the slides later on. We ask that you keep it for your own internal use and not to share it with anybody outside, because this is really part of what Eagle University is supposed to do, is to provide value to help you make your decisions. Question 4, question 5. So I want to come back to this main graph. So the whole focus of this is I want to be able to establish the right interaction model so I can figure out the tension between willingness to pay and cost to serve. Right? And the best business model is the cost to serve is low and the customer's willingness to pay is high. That's the perfect business model. There are 4 different options in this, right? I'm just going to unshare my screen first and I'll come back to it later. Cost to serve and willingness to pay. I'll see my 2 hands. If the cost to serve is very, very high and the willingness to pay is low, this is a terrible combination. That's the no-go. The cost to serve this customer is very high because I require a lot of R&D. I require a lot of technical skills. I require a rainmaker, but the customer's willingness to pay is low. That is a bad formula. If the cost to serve is high and the customer's willingness to pay is high, there's a very strong case for that. That's Ferrari or Lamborghini, right? McKinsey is another example of Boston Consulting. If I need to hire the top MBA student to be analyst, but I'm going to charge $20,000 a day, cost to serve is high. You could make a case for that. If the cost to serve is low and the willingness to pay is low, the best way to think about that is maybe, I don't know if you've got, but in Singapore, we've got the $2 stores. Everything in the shop is $2. Is it a good business? Well, it is, but you definitely need volume. The best combination is cost to serve is low, willingness to pay is high. So I'm looking at Sam, right? So Sam, you start to think about, how do I do my pricing model based on the kind of customer acquisition, customer retention, and customer growth, right? And in the B2B situation, your sales cycle is usually quite long. So the challenge with that is actually the back office and the mid office. How does the back office and the mid office support the business thrust? So let me just show you this slide again. Let me see. Yep. So there you go. This provides some guidance. So I would like to invite each one of you, from Mark, you're thinking about pro forma, you're thinking about Profit Inc., 2 products, 2 companies. Where do they fall? And do I have my right pricing strategy? Right? Andy, with your services as well, right? So all of us are involved in different companies. So it's very useful to see how are we structuring our thinking around our pricing strategy, our hiring strategy. Do we need a customer success team? Of course we need, but is the client willing to pay for it? Because that's a true test, right? So that's the end of my formal lecture. I'm very happy to kind of answer questions. What do you guys think about this?
I'll start. I'm assuming you make different decisions based for staffing priorities on those different models. Do you have some thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I'll give you the most obvious one, which is our sales team.
Mm-hmm.
In Momenta, which is the customized solution provider, I need to hire very highly qualified sales consultants. And there's a sales consultant who understands technical competency, has soft skills to engage the client, and is able to call upon my product specialist to come in at the right moment in time. Mm-hmm. Private banking is another example. Whereas retail banking, I need somebody who knows how to punch in numbers into a calculator and a high counter teller. And even if in retail banking, if it's an ATM, then I shift everything over to the ATM, right? And there's a lot of companies in the US now, like Charles Schwab. They don't need a lot of sales consultants because everything's online. Charles Schwab is an example of lean and reliable. Whereas Chase private client would be customized solution provider. Different types of salespeople to service the interactions that's required. So.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the challenges I feel, just to let you be very blunt, and I'm a portfolio company as well as an investor, as well as a GP. Mm-hmm. So I'm wearing 3 different hats, is many of the companies we see, including my own, We have a superstar CEO that's technically very competent, but it's very hard to scale because no other person has that level of technical prowess. And so as a result, that CEO has to be brought into every major B2B sale because it requires that level of domain expertise. The good news is the CEO is an expert. The bad news is it's very hard to scale.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My own consulting firm, Momenta, I'm that kind of a person. So the only way I was able to scale is to go into partnerships like Boston Consulting and have joint venture partners with equity partners in 10 countries, like in 7 countries, because I can't replicate. And I have a lot of heavy lifting to onboard my partners for 6 months period, very heavy lifting to do knowledge transfer. And I try to do some knowledge management system. It's very tough. You guys know how difficult it is, right? So we try to institutionalize that excellence as much as possible, but it's very hard. Versus somebody going online and buying a Coursera course. It's a 5-minute, 15-minute, or 2-hour program. You click here, you go to PayPal, and you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Carl, what's an example of when the realization of which type of sale changed your approach, if that makes sense? Because that's where this would be really, really valuable, is like you think you're an innovator, but realize it's actually just the standardization that people are buying that totally changes how you sell. Do you have a story of a time when I thought I was one, but realized I was another? Or I like that you're touching on that fuzzy element of like, I think almost every startup starts out basically somewhat bespoke solutions for their first customer, and they're trying to become the innovator where they sell it again. And that's where that's the superstar founder, which everybody on this call starts out selling to one client and they're trying to become the innovator that sells the same thing again and again. Do you have a story of when realizing which bucket you were in changed what you did?
Yeah, so I'll give you an example with Momenta, we are a leading consulting and training company, and we charge these kind of programs anywhere from $20,000 to $50,000 for 2-day workshop. But we do a great job. The clients love us, and the way we close these deals is I show up to the meeting and I wow them with my technical prowess. And then the client says, we'll buy 10 runs of this. $500,000. Nobody's complaining. Fantastic. When I go to Eagle in Dallas for our board meeting, no sales happen.
Mm-hmm.
0 sales happen because I'm not there. My team members we need a rainmaker for that. So once I realized that, I said, you know what? I need to get some product that's off the shelf. That's when I went to Ken Blanchard, which is a famous Christian business guru. And Ken Blanchard has 2-day program that sell for $1,000. It's off the shelf, no customization. You get this nice training kit. You got 6 different videos you show. That's it. So I actually started to carry other people's standard products to sell as a lead generator. If they like that, then I can sell the higher value solutions. But I struggle, Wes, as an internal team member. I've got a salesperson in my team who can take those off-the-shelf products. They become very efficient and transactional sale.
Mm-hmm.
And then the strategic sale required a different type of person. And my trainers are also very different. Mm-hmm. The person who's going to go into that workshop for a standard package, there's a certain core competency. They're not looking for flashy stuff. They're just looking for, here's the 7 things you must do all the time. Whereas a customized solution provider, you need somebody like Wade to show up with high level of intellectual muscles to engage your client, but they're willing to pay for it.
Mhm.
So in my own company, I've seen that happen. Banking On, which is actually we hired salespeople to do what Alexi does, but nobody can do what Alexi does, is go to each individual company, impress with them with his deep domain knowledge, and the bank will say, you know what, we don't have anybody. We'll hire you because we're so impressed with you, and by hiring you with Banking On, that comes with the software. Whereas
Yeah.
Boku now is okay, which is our family banking app. We'll buy it off the shelf. We'll try it out, plug and play.
In some ways, that's the transition that, like, the massive gap that every founder is trying to cross.
That's right.
Like, again, as I'm looking around, I'm like, everybody's trying to cross that. Like, Ashley, you're going through the journey of, like, there's lots of people that would like to hire you to come train and to cross the chasm to them just buying Engage Together, right?
Well, I've been speaking to Sam, I've been speaking to Andy, and both of them
Yeah.
are technical experts. They are
Yeah.
deep domain experts. Nobody can sound like them because they have been able to formulate complexity in their minds to become a product offering, a service offering. Fantastic, but it's very hard to scale because you created that value proposition.
Sam, you raise your hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to affirm, Carl, what you had said about going for more than one type of product, with having the back, the middle, and the front office all trying to communicate. It is extraordinarily difficult. We've developed an enterprise level product that, to your point, Wes, I would say that we got lucky and we sold a high dollar contract to a bank who bought this enterprise product, and we've been trying to resell it, trying to mold it and shape it and resell it to other banks in Latin America. And to date, we've gotten very close. And every day we get a little bit closer. To your point, Carl, it's a very long sales cycle. And the points of articulation between that front of office, the middle, and the back, and the people who are on the ground talking to the bank in Peru, who then talk to me, and then I didn't talk to the tech team. It is, man, it's unwieldy. And along the way, and just last week, we've now pushed out a product that I want to go through your decision tree, Carl, but we've pushed out a product that I think is lean and reliable, which is a SaaS version of the product that we sold to the bank. And we're seeing a lot of churn around it, a lot of interest, a lot of, traction that I'm very encouraged to see. But again, I'm torn because I'm getting called into a meeting over here with this bank in Uruguay, and then I've got 30 emails that are coming from. So I'm sort of caught in this space where, gosh, I can't do both. And so I just wanted to, Carl, affirm what you were saying about that, and also say that if you're building one product, stick with the one product, because it's really hard to manage two, much less three.
Sam, just to add to that, you've got cash flow. We all have cash flow pressure as a startup, as a company, and so you want, because Sam, we could sell your services for $100,000 anywhere, but then that's not scalable, and then you have to sacrifice that margin by replicating the most simplest stuff, right? And that's that tension. Once we get to a certain size and a certain cash flow, then you can have the mid office and the back office try to service 2 or 3 interaction models.
Yeah. Looking forward to that day. Really, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Carl. This has been fantastic. I've learned so much in the past 30 minutes. This has been great.
Other comments or questions?
I would, because I know a little bit about Proforma and Profit Inc. I would suggest that Proforma and Profit Inc. is an example of some IP from Mark, from Wade, that they've kind of simplified it and they say, okay, now it's $199 and all that. I think that is an example of, in my opinion, a successful transition. Mark, I'm not sure. What do you think about that? Right?
Well, I think it's intellectually successful. The scaling the sales is now the challenge. So, yeah, And we're also rethinking different models for Profit Inc. Because on the one hand, an analytics product that shows a business what they could do a lot better is a challenge to sell, because a lot of people don't want to hear that their baby's ugly, right? And that there's a little bit of resistance to it. And then you have the other challenge that the value that it adds is exceptionally high. And so we're trying different pricing experiments to see whether we actually get a better total yield from pricing it high and having fewer sales, rather than pricing it low and trying to get more volume. So we haven't really cracked that particular code yet, but this particular module is perfectly timely for us, Carl. I appreciate it very much.
I'll give the slides over to Vip later on, and you guys can kind of play with it. Just use it internally. That's the key. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very good thought map, to ask the right questions at each step.
Mark, I'll say we just finished making the decision on the price for the data scan that we have for our SaaS platform. And what you just said exactly now was the higher volume, lower price versus there's a sweet spot in there where we found where if the price isn't too low, and we can hit the volume because we've partnered with a lead generation platform and we think that's going to work for us. It's already starting to produce some churn. That's kind of what tipped me in the decision of pricing it a little bit lower. That and the closed beta that we did, that we invited a bunch of people to just log on and use it for free. And then I've been hounding them to give me feedback, almost to the point where like I'm getting a little bit annoying. But they've been giving me tremendous feedback on what they would be willing to pay. And I'll tell you what, the reason why I went after that was because I don't know if it was the last university or the one before, Carl, where you said you really landed on this willingness to pay piece. And I just said, I gotta know what the market is willing to pay, even if it's a small sample size, that I can extrapolate. I gotta know, because I can't just throw this out there and hope I'm right, because the percentage hit for that is so low without that data. So just another couple comments, Mark.
Yeah. So I think everyone in this meeting and I think in the Eagle family are innovators by default, right? The challenge then is the willingness to pay is untested because the market needs to be educated. I was talking to Andy, if you remember, saying offer it for free, because it's free is terrible, but you're educating the client on your value. That's an investment. And then you can always turn it off, because once they see the value and they turn it off, they go, wait a minute, what happened?
Yeah, let me add context to it. And Wes and Carl, you don't know about this. Okay. We have been working on something stealthily for about a year. In fact, I'll probably send an invite to the Slack channel. But it is game changing in the fact that we're the only company in the world that can tell you if your email's landing in the spam folder or in the inbox, period. Nobody can do it. Add to that the technologies out there, they're obsolete for many technical reasons, which I won't get into. And we just launched it a week ago, and in the last 5 days, I've had 7 people sign up, from large enterprise to small enterprises. And we started with the concept of let's do it for free. Why? Because there's nothing like this. What's been interesting is as they become familiar with this, and it became a glue for us. They're saying, what about all the other services? Can we get those? Absolutely. And they're coming to us and saying, look, this is so much more than what was available. We'll pay you the first time we make money, and they'll make money the first time. So that idea, that concept of going for free is really good. That doesn't always work. We've had some challenge with one of the companies that came through Carl, which again, Carl, thank you so much. Because they feel that they don't have the resources right now.
Mm.
And there's not much you can do about that because then it becomes you're begging to make them money, which is kind of a straight decision to be in. But where I do think there's two different things that we've tested. One is doing exactly that, is, hey, try it for free. And then the second one is creating there's margin and mystery. So creating a little mystery to what we're doing, because they'll immediately, if it's something innovative, they'll immediately try to put you in a box. So what you have to do is remove that understanding. And then when they see it, it's like, wait a second, I won't say the words that they use. They're BS, you can't do this. And I'm like, we're doing it and it works. And they're like, this is a game changer. And then they change the discussion and start solving things for themselves.
So, Andy, I just want to quickly come back to the framework. Andy is an innovator. He doesn't know the willingness to pay, but he's using a simple product to generate leads, to educate the market, to sell a higher value. So within each of the customer interaction models, there are lead generation opportunities that actually can help you bring higher margin. Mark, you're going to say something?
Yeah, just a couple of things. So first, on the freemium type thing, we in Profit Inc. in particular, we've had great success using free to get feedback on the product. And what we have done that I'd encourage everybody else to do is you offer it for free and you say, and what we'd like in return is a testimonial. So you're gonna be so wowed by the product, and everybody is, that we get great testimonials. So that's step one. Step two, what we're finding out is we have a lot of inertia to overcome, because what Profit Inc. does, it can do what you would pay a McKinsey consultant several $100,000 to do at a small fraction of the price. But like Andy is saying, is there's a lot of skepticism and disbelief that is even possible. And so it's difficult for us to actually induce trial. Once somebody does it, they're blown away by the value. And that's another challenge altogether. So the strategy that we're using now is, if we can get companies to identify that they're great candidates for our flagship product, which we call PIQ analysis, then we have a much better chance of selling them. So what we've done is created a couple of companion products that are much lower end, very, very simple to use, require almost no effort by the client, and are very low cost or even free, that essentially generates the lead for us. And one of them, for example, is a valuation product. So if Andy does a valuation, generally he's going to be disappointed because most management teams value their company more than the reality of what the market will say. But then we can say, well, we have a product that can help you maximize your value. Would you like fries with that? And we can bring that in. So this is where we are right now on our product market fit journey. We're kind of zeroing in on how to actually identify the right customer and to sell them at the right time.
Just on that extra note is what we're doing in our kind of internal Eagle Venture Lab Asia is we're looking at product market, but also market readiness. That's very painful, because the people in this meeting are all innovators, and we are thinking so far ahead. But the market readiness to accept what we do and the behaviors, that's a different story.
You know, Carl, I'll give you another example that we're struggling with in Proforma, but struggling in a good way. Is what we've discovered in Proforma is our tools can be linked together to run a very, very high quality, highly efficient virtual pitch competition. We experimented with this, and we accomplished in literally 4 weeks what it takes half a year to a year to do if you run a conventional pitch competition. And without all the cost either. It's essentially, it's free for everybody. So as we're approaching other entities that run pitch competitions,
And offering this to them.
well, we are, but this is the initial reaction that we're getting. It's because the paradigm is, well, it takes me 6 to 12 months to put this together. Hey, maybe I'll use one of your tools to help me run a little component of my process a little bit more efficiently. And what it's too big a leap for them to even fathom the idea that we could do what they take a year to do in 4 weeks.
So they want to just buy 1 or 2 parts of that component.
That's right. And because they want to get marginally more effective. But what I have to persuade them to do eventually is to think differently and say, what if you could do 6 of these a year instead of 1? Wouldn't you like to experiment with that? And we've had very little success persuading. So what we decided to do instead is we're just going to run pitch competitions, and we're going to invite those prospects to participate as judges. It'll take very little time, and then they'll just get to see it without us having to sell to them. So that's what we're trying next here in the fall. It's a very interesting phenomenon because we're ahead of the market, and it's hard for people to imagine that you could actually do this as efficiently as we do.
That's right. You're basically building the market, and you're educating the market, and you're selling it to the market all at the same time.
Yes. Yeah.
So Mark, I used to support a lot of, I was a judge on a lot of entrepreneurship from MBA programs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, have you thought about like going at it at that level? So what I call budding professionals who are probably apprenticing or interning with businesses that might be low-hanging fruit. But if you were to introduce this to people who are running those pitch competitions in the universities, and there is a lot of that going on.
Yeah, I like the way you think, Ashley. So not only do I have a cadre of excited local MBAs coming in to do voluntary project work for us starting next week, we also have partnered with a couple of the local angel networks that are affiliated with the universities, and they're very excited about what we're doing. We hadn't been able to sell them actually on the pitch competition. So what we did was we took a couple of our tools and said, we'll private label them for you. You can use them for your Horned Frog Angel Network here for TCU. And they use that as a front end screening tool. And not only were the judges and the investors excited about that, we had the entrepreneurs, the founders who are raising money, touting the tool. It was really, I never thought that would happen because it's really designed as a diligence tool for the investor with a valuation attached to it. But because the entrepreneur actually was excited about his valuation, he was promoting the tool and said, well, the pro forma tool says that we're worth this valuation cap, so that's what we're asking. And I hadn't thought that would happen. This idea of network and channel selling is really powerful.
Great. I think we're at the top of the hour now. Great discussions, guys. As promised, I'll send this over to Vip and then reach out to him. And yeah, feel free to use it for internal purposes. I'm available on Slack or on phone to kind of continue to journey with you guys. I don't think I have all the answers, but I've made enough mistakes to figure this 6 customer interaction models out. And I'll be in Dallas, Mark, so I'll catch up with you in person. And
yes. We'll definitely see. I know you guys are in town the same week that my daughter is expecting her first child. So
wow. Exciting.
I may have to be flexible and sprint out of the
He's
office.
inviting you all to the hospital.
Yes.
Right. It's
all right.